years ago, before the events of the Keyblade War, when Keyblade wielders were vast, and the fight to sustain the light was the main focus. There existed an individual known as the Master of Masters whose motto was, "May your heart be your guiding key." He had trained 6 Keyblade apprentices and forged for them unique Keyblades from the light within their hearts. Within time, 5 of these apprentices became known as the Foretellers: Ira, Envy, Gula, Ava, and Ased. Luxu, the 6th apprentice, was separated from the rest and was tasked with a special mysterious objective given to him by the Master of Masters. The headquarters and central world of this time was known as Daybreak Town. At the center of Daybreak Town exists the headquarters for the Foretellers and the Master of Masters. Each of the 5 Foretellers had created their own union with the goal to gather the remaining light of the worlds in the form of Lux. Each union had a vast amount of Keyblade wielders dedicated to this task. These unions were known as Unicornus, which was run by Ira, Anquius, which was run by Envy, Leopardus, which was run by Gula, Velpus, which was run by Ava, and Urus, which was run by Ased. This is a time when an unnamed Keyblade wielder presented him or herself in the history books. We're also introduced to a Dream Eater known as Chirithy. Chirithies were created by the Master of Masters and were assigned to each Keyblade wielder to help them on their journey to gather Lux. The most mysterious individual of this time was the Master of Masters, who was dressed in an Organization 13's black cloak with the hood hiding his face. He remains quite cryptic through this time period, even to his own apprentices, of his true intentions. He does bring to their attention, though, the Book of Prophecies, which he provides each one their own copy. Within each one of these books, there is a missing page of the prophecy that foretells of the events of the Great Keyblade War to come. One day, the Master of Masters told his apprentices that he may just disappear one day, so he wanted to assign all 6 with a special task that only they could do. He met with each one individually to explain to them their roles if he did disappear. Ira became the new leader of the Foretellers. Envy was tasked to be the observer of the other Foretellers and to be the mediator between them and the issues that they may have. Gula was tasked to find the traitor among them, who was mentioned in the lost page out of their copies of the Book of Prophecies, and to stop them. Ava had a very unique task from the rest, as she was to gather Keyblade wielders from all unions to form a new group known as the Dandelions, so that they could be saved from the upcoming Keyblade War and to ensure that the survival of the light of the new world. Also, she was tasked to find the 5 Keyblade wielders provided to her on a list from the Master of Masters who would become the new Foretellers. Ased became second in command to Ira and his right-hand man, and upon feeling that Ira may have fallen from his leadership tasks, was given a nudge from the Master of Masters to take over from Ira when he felt it needed. Luxu was given the nameless Keyblade that possessed the Master of Masters' eye and have it pass from master to apprentice throughout time, so that the Master of Masters can witness future events as they unfold through the eye. This sent Luxu on his journey with the Keyblade and a very mysterious box in tow that was last seen in the Master of Masters' quarters. Now that the 5 Foretellers were aware of the prophecy of the upcoming Keyblade War, they worked to find ways to prevent this from occurring. Unbeknownst to them, their actions from this point on were what led to the war in the end. Using the Book of Prophecies, the Foretellers called upon several worlds from the future to project into their era to search for Lux. During this time period as well, there were Heartless throughout scattered worlds in which the Keyblade wielders from every union must go and dispense to collect Lux. Heartless are monsters that are created either naturally from the darkness that manifests within people's hearts, or artificially when an individual's heart is consumed by darkness itself. When the Master of Masters disappeared, the 5 Foretellers became unstable and unsure of themselves. even though they had their roles to fulfill, there became a lot of doubt and animosity between all of them. They knew about the traitor among them, but had no proof as to who they were. The only evidence they had was the presence of a dark charity in the lost page within the Book of Prophecies. Each one with their own task to fulfill, they knew anyone who shied away from the task given to them must be the traitor the Master spoke about. The issue was that each foreteller did not fully know the extent of the role given to another foreteller by the Master. Aset became uncertain of Ira's leadership and decided to take action into his own hands, trying to form alliances with other foretellers and their unions, which was strictly prohibited by the Master of Master. The drive to gather more and more Lux was also encouraged within the unions. Since Lux can be used to gain power, it soon became a temptation to become powerful rather than using Lux to fight the darkness. Soon Keyblade wielders from all unions became entranced by Lux and allowed their hearts to succumb to darkness. As a Keyblade wielder loses himself to darkness, their charity partner transforms into a dark charity known as a nightmare. Keyblade wielders were starting to turn on each other, accusing one another of stealing Lux. It's at this time when Alpha Mara gets introduced to the unnamed Keyblade wielder. They decide to work together to make their way into the Foreteller's Tower in Daybreak Town. When reaching the Foreteller's Tower, the unnamed Keyblade wielder finds Alpha Mara has not shown up, and instead, they are confronted by Master Ava. Upon defeating Master Ava, she reveals to the unnamed Keyblade wielder that they too have a sadness building up in their heart of sins, and this ties them to the darkness. After the encounter with Master Ava, the unnamed Keyblade wielder then becomes more doubtful of themselves, and it's at this point of the story that they meet Shulk and learn that there is a new breed of Heartless that are coming from the corrupted Keyblade wielders who have lost their hearts to darkness. Shulk and the unnamed Keyblade wielder team up and head back to the Forbidden Tower. Once they get inside of the tower, Shulk and the Keyblade wielder learn that Alpha Mara is now seen as a traitor and has disappeared from Daybreak Town. Though they went to look for them, they are now get confronted by another master, another foreteller. Upon this, they engage in another battle. At the end of this battle, it is revealed that it's not the master who confronted them, but Master Ava in disguise to test both the unnamed Keyblade wielder and Shulk. She wanted to test them to see if they were worthy of leaving this world to become a part of the Dandelions before the Great Keyblade War began. It is revealed at this time from Master Ava that to become a Dandelion, a Keyblade wielder must possess a heart that is strong enough to fight the darkness and to fight what they believed in was right. They became a Dandelion, and once they did, they were sent to another realm, which was known as the Realm of Light, to wait out the conclusion of the Keyblade War. Any Keyblade wielder who did not become a Dandelion was destined to take a part of this great war to come. Shulk accepted the invitation, but the unnamed Keyblade wielder was still confused as to join or not. They also learned that Alpha Mara had decided to join the Dandelions, and he was not a traitor, but had left to the Realm of Light. It was at this point that the unnamed Keyblade wielder left the tower. As the unnamed Keyblade wielder made their way through Daybreak Town, it became more and more noticeable that Keyblade wielders from different unions who once worked in harmony with one another were now turning on each other, believing that they were stealing Lux from one another. Here, the unnamed Keyblade wielder was confronted by another foreteller. Master Aset came up to them, saying that they could not trust anyone, from another union, that they could only trust members from their own faction. He asked where the unnamed Keyblade wielder belonged to, and upon answering, he engaged him or her in battle. Great animosity grew between the foretellers day by day, with the suspicion growing as to who might be the traitor. They could not trust each other and began to fight. As said was the biggest one who engaged the other foretellers in battle, trying to gain dominance over the leadership and eventually losing his strength. The best way to go about gaining strength is what he believed was to gather Lux, and therefore set his union to go out and gather Lux for themselves. It's after this that we can see that the foretellers were starting to get further and further away from their goals and each other. With the fighting growing and the animosity being there, the trust between them was starting to break down. They had become suspicious of each other, and to combat this, power was needed. To gain more power, each union started to gather more and more Lux. Gula was the most adamant at wanting to gather more Lux, as he wanted to summon Kingdom Hearts to bring back the Master of Masters so he could stop the upcoming doom of the Keyblade War. During this point of time, the unnamed Keyblade wielder was out to gather more information of what was going on. To do this, they worked with other Keyblade wielders to fight against these new breeds of Heartless. At the same time, Master Ava went in search of Master Luxu. Master Ava found Luxu on top of a cliff overlooking Daybreak Town, watching the events as they were unfolding. Having the knowledge from the lost page in the Book of Prophecies, he revealed to Master Ava the truth of why the events that have been going on are happening the way that they are. He also reveals to her information on the true traitor of the group. Enraged by this information, Master Ava began dueling Luxu on top of the cliff. Hence, one of the starting points that triggered the Keyblade War. Several days of unrest and animosity is seen within Daybreak Town at this point. Foretellers continue to turn on each other, and the Keyblade wielders under their unions band together to fight other unions for the control of Lux. With more and more accusations of a traitor being from another union, there was little to no trust anymore between each of the unions. Within days, the Keyblade War officially began. It all came to a head when all the unions met to confront each other in one final battle. At the end, all that remained of the battlefield was the Keyblades of the fallen wielders piercing the ground. When all was concluded, the unnamed Keyblade wielder was laying on the ground with their Cherothy beside them. It's at this point that Shulk and Aphemera came to the Keyblade wielder. After the events of the Keyblade War and the disappearance at this time of the unnamed Keyblade wielder, Shulk and Aphemera meet once again in the now named Keyblade Graveyard. Here they await the arrival of 3 more Keyblade wielders who, with them included, will become the new foretellers as appointed by Master Ava. Here they are joined by 2 others by the name of Ventus and Blaine, and the 4 of them wait for the 5th appointed foreteller to arrive. They await for quite a while, and finally the 5th appointed foreteller arrives by the name of Lumerium. Only these 5 individuals will have memories of the past and of the Keyblade War. All the other dandelions will not remember the past and simply believe they belong to the unions they were a part of prior to joining the dandelions. The 5 new foretellers make their way into the Forbidden Tower, which is now their home base. Upon entering the Master of Masters' room, they find a copy of the Book of Prophecies upon his desk, and they do discuss creating new unions, but they all agree at this time that creating new unions was not what they wanted to do, but to keep the remaining unions as they are. Also, they decided to not tell the Keyblade wielders that the foretellers are missing, as they wanted to avoid chaos between the members. Blaine suggests that they give all the Keyblade wielders that remained a new spirit partner. Though not as strong as a Cherokee, they still have the ability to eat nightmares and help them forget past events. We learn the fate of the unnamed Keyblade wielder who we thought perished during the Keyblade War. They in fact were in a deep sleep, saved by Shulk, Alphamera, and their own partner Cherokee after the events of the Keyblade War. The unnamed Keyblade wielder couldn't seem to get out of this dream state. It's at this time as well the 5 new foretellers needed to gather the necessary ingredients to create the new spirit partners for the Keyblade wielders that remained. With Lemurium not up to the task, he remained with Blaine to assist in preparing to create the new spirits. Shulk, Alphamera, and Ven headed off to gather the new ingredients needed. Upon deciding to give all the remaining Keyblade wielders who were once part of the Dandelions a new spirit partner, this allowed them to forget the tragedy of the Keyblade War and erase it from their memories. This allowed them to continue believing they were a part of their original unions that Master Ava had recruited them from, and believed the foretellers, the original foretellers, were still around. This is where the history of Kingdom Hearts 100 years ago seems to stop from what we have found so far. With the fate of the unnamed Keyblade wielder and the 5 foretellers unknown, we are left to wait until more historical evidences are found that can shed light into this forgotten past. A past that has been lost to many, which is now clear by the use of the spirit creatures that were created by the foretellers to help them forget the past. Thanks to the finding of this historical data, we can now dive further into what has occurred in the history of Kingdom Hearts. This has been a telling of Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key and Union Cross, where Union Cross sits at this time in North America. As we do not have the full release of Union Cross, I'm unable to continue going into the lore of what happened to the 5 new foretellers and the unnamed Keyblade wielder. With future patches, I do hope to be able to relay more information to you guys. Right now, this is part 1 of many history videos of the Kingdom Hearts series. If you like, please leave a like below. Leave me a comment. How are you enjoying this series so far? I do realize this is the first one. Subscribe to the channel for more upcoming, as I plan to cover the extensive lore and history of Kingdom Hearts, bringing us right up to Kingdom Hearts 3. Thank you guys so much for staying and listening to this rendition. And as always, guys, happy gaming.